Hello, welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. I'm Kirk Henderson, and I'm joined by Josh Bowe. We are both editors over at MavsMoneyball.com. We come to you. It is Thursday night. It's a little before 10:30. We got started earlier than we were broadcast for, and we did so because the Mavericks. I want to say they took care of business against the New York Knicks, but I had no idea how to feel about this game going in. I don't know how to feel about this game now. They won 128-124 in one of kind of the most back and forth, rope-a-dope. Like, there was so much going on with this game, in a game where there was all sorts of blowouts across the NBA tonight. Like, the Portland Trailblazers should probably be relegated, for example. They got beat by like 80 points. The Mavericks played a really entertaining game with the New York Knicks. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, it's kind of a shame that I already see it in the chat. I see a little bit on Twitter, like just the way that the game ended. It's going to be a lot of, Jason Kidd sucks, and they almost blew another game, and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like the fourth quarter collapse is going to take away from what was really like a really impressive and dominant first three quarters, when you consider the Knicks have basically been like the best team in the NBA over the last week. And the Mavericks, are missing Luka and Lively and Exum. So yeah, I mean, is it ideal that the Mavericks had to pull this win by the hair on their chin? Like, nah, you'd rather them close out a 20-point lead in the second half, but also they had a 20-point lead against the Knicks when they had no Luka. So I mean, this was a game everyone expected the Mavericks to be down by 20. So I really hope that the way they close the game in the fourth doesn't overshadow the performance for the rest of the game. Because it really, that was the meat of the game.
So full disclosure, I missed the entire fourth quarter because I started dealing with a absolute emergency related to our podcast, which I will share with you guys a little bit later in the show, simply because I need to know if anybody in our audience has experience with this sort of thing. But I think that by following it along on my computer, I actually had a little bit more of a less emotional reaction to this game. And the Knicks, quite candidly, with the one exception of Mitchell Robinson, who's like out for the year with an injury, the Knicks are like the funhouse mirror version of the Mavericks in terms of how their season is gone. Chuck Cooperstein shared something today that the Mavericks don't have. The Mavericks don't have a single worthwhile lineup, I think, that has over 100+ minutes together, 5-man lineup, the entire season. So we're nearly halfway through the season, and the Mavericks don't have a lot of data, which goes back to what we mentioned when we closed the podcast after the Grizzlies game, which is I think the Mavericks still have layers to get to because they just don't know enough about how these guys actually fit together. And that is just sort of got me thinking when you think about the fact that they came out tonight with kind of an unorthodox starting lineup. Dwight Powell has no business playing in a game like this, and that they managed to get up and they managed to hold the lead for a while. They actually blew the lead twice, if we're being candid. It got down to 6 at one point before it got down to 1 in the fourth quarter. And I walk away from this game really delighted that they won. Really delighted that they, played how they did for huge sections of this game. And if you're upset with the coaching, I get it, but they're down 3 starters. So I want Kidd to take timeouts too. I don't want to sit here and say that I think Kidd is like the answer, but I also I'm living in this world where they're not getting rid of him, in my opinion, ever. I don't think they're ever going to say that.
And talking about it after a win is just like, it's just a non-starter. Like, it's January, the Mavericks are 23-16. They won. Like, I just don't know why Fire Kid has to be a talking point after this specific game. Like, it's just not there for me. And I understand. I'm not trying to say I agreed with the way that the team played down the stretch, or Kid's decisions down the stretch, or lack of decisions. It's just like, we got to talk about some other stuff. Like, besides that, you said you missed most of the fourth quarter. So yeah, it is funny. I would have loved to see you react, because you're pretty
I would have died.
Cool. You would have.
Like, let's be clear. Like, all you guys are so angry in the chat. Like, lighten up. This again, an account I'm very close to banning just for his consistent complaining. Like, when I say Dwight Powell shouldn't be able to play in this game, I say Dwight Powell tends to get rocked by bigger guys. He did play a good basketball game. But that's what's made this season so interesting, is that you go night in and night out, and some of these guys that I don't think should be able to play in certain matchups do a really good job. And other times it's like, what is going on here? I mean, by and large, the guys that we were so pissed at after last game played fantastic. Like, the Josh Green had, for my money, his best game. Is that silly?
I don't know if it was his best, probably his best game this season.
Yeah, best game this season.
Yeah. He played really well. Obviously, the scoring is great. 18 points. He was really aggressive on the fast break. He really thrived with the way they were pushing the tempo. The Mavericks scored 23 points off 16 Knicks turnovers, and 2 of those turnovers were team turnovers, which are the ball,
shot clock ones, right?
Yeah, either shot clock ones or something else. Yeah, they're usually shot clock ones. So only 14 turnovers that were like within play, at least. I'm not even sure how many of those were in play. The Mavericks had 6 steals, so there's at least 6 of them. For the Mavericks to score 23 points off those 14 turnovers, that's a crazy high conversion rate. They had 25 fast break points, and that was a lot of Green getting out and Kyrie finding him. He ran the floor exceptionally hard, and I know Mavs fans are frustrated. Like, why can't he do this when the team is fully healthy? Like, it seems like he has these big pop-off games without Luka. And yeah, that's probably a larger discussion for another day. Like,
right?
Why can't he?
Doesn't make sense why he can't play well with them. And
he clearly plays better when he gets to run more and when he gets to touch the ball more. But my friend, you were the 18th pick and you were on a team with Luka Doncic. You have to be able to adapt your game to contribute, right, in the half court. Like, that's not like a Luka criticism. That, like, Luka does not need to adapt to Josh Green. Josh Green needs to adapt to Luka.
That's correct. Right.
But still, it was good to see. He made the clutch 3-pointer after he missed. So basically, the way that a game ended, he missed a corner. They're up 1 with like 40 seconds left. He misses a corner 3. There's like 2 offensive rebounds later, and then he makes the game clinching 3 with like 30 or 40 seconds left. So that was really good to see. Defensively, I thought he was really good for about a half or so. Brunson eventually kind of found his way in the second half, but I thought he and Kyrie were the biggest reasons the Mavericks got the lead that they got, and they set the tone, because one, Kyrie came out with an aggressive mindset, like, I'm going to score, I'm going to dominate on the floor.
Just incredible game.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's a play, I want to say his second quarter, maybe his first quarter, but he gets the ball. One of the things I've been really asking for is on, like, part of the way the Mavericks offense works, Kyrie gets the ball in reversal at one of the wings, and he almost always makes the right pass to the corner. And what I've sort of advocated for the last couple of days is I really want him to just rise and fire, because he's a brilliant catch and shoot player. But he made a pass to Jaden Hardy. Jaden Hardy drives baseline and gets fouled. And one of the things that is so really just, I mean, it's really obvious to some people, and it's probably obvious if you're like a hardcore basketball fan, but it's really pleasing to watch Kyrie make the right play so often, particularly within this offense. And I don't ever really feel like he's forcing too much. There's just he takes control of the game and has been hitting the kind of shots. I mean, he didn't, you go look at his statistics. He didn't have a good opening to the year. He shot under 50% most games. And then there's games like tonight where he's just like the threes are falling. A Kyrie Irving transition 3 is my current favorite shot with this basketball team. It is different than a Jason Terry, a three in transition where you could see that shit from a mile away with Terry. But I love it when Kyrie does it. It's great to watch.
Yeah, the way that he's able to like spring into it, like kind of out of nowhere, it feels like is pretty remarkable. Like the way he's able to get balance no matter where he is in his dribble and no matter how fast his dribble is, in the break. Like that's really impressive. And then the other thing, following up like how it was Kyrie and Green getting this team off to a great start. They started, Green started the game and they started with Green picking Brunson up full court for the most part, or 3/4 court. And I think that bothered the Knicks because I honestly feel like the Knicks walked into this game. They're playing well. They see there's no Luka, there's no Lively, no Exum. I mean, they walked into this game kind of like how the Mavericks played against Memphis the other night, where it was like, okay, this is a undermanned team. We're really good. We're just going to walk through this game and be able to get a win because they're so shorthanded. They don't have Luka. They can't do anything about it. And Green totally changed how they wanted to kind of sleepwalk. Like they wanted to sleepwalk through the game and Green wouldn't let them because he picked up Brunson so early in possessions, almost full court. I mean, the Knicks didn't get a flow in their offense until the second half when they finally kind of adjusted and kind of, got a quick kick in the ass and kind of picked up their pace of play a little bit. But the Knicks just wanted to walk the ball up, play a nice, easy game because they thought they were going to win. And Green was like, no, and maybe this was part of the coaching staff. Maybe this is Kidd, this is Sweeney. But it made a difference, him picking up Brunson. Like the Knicks offense was totally discombobulated for the first half. And Brunson didn't have a good half either. He didn't really pick it up till the end of the game. So I thought that was really good by Kidd or the coaching staff and then by Green executing.
I mean, the funny little secret about Jalen Brunson, and I like Jalen Brunson and I miss Jalen Brunson, but him and Kyrie Irving are very different players. And the thing about Brunson is that he plays exactly like Luka. I'm sorry, he just does. He controls and that's a compliment in a lot of regards. He controls the pace. He knows where he's going. He does things interesting. But like the kind of pass that Kyrie received, I want to say it was like an outlet pass. Kyrie's at the bottom of the screen, so going up the left side of the floor. It was essentially like it reminded me of like a hockey slap shot where it was what do you call those one-timers where it's like you just swing at it, and he one-hand rifles a pass to Josh Green up the other side of the floor that was so damn sexy. I didn't know what to do with myself because it went, you see Luka make these passes and I'm kind of become numb to them to a degree. And I know Kyrie's an unbelievable passer too, but Luka has the ball more than he does. So he doesn't get a chance to really discuss these or to do these sorts of things. So it was just, man, and the other point I wanted to make is I really think that this game was a back to basics reminder of the fact that earlier in the season, the Mavericks were running a lot. And as the season's worn on and as these guys haven't been healthy, we had somebody in the chat point out that Luka and Kyrie have only been healthy together for 22 of the 37 games. That is huge. I really hope that this is some visual and provides the Mavericks with some film reminders that they do and should run more. They need to run a little bit more. They get the most out of certain players when they run more. Is that crazy?
No, not crazy at all. But they're also entering this game. They were 8th in pace. So they're top 10 in pace. So like, how much faster do you need them to go?
I mean, but when Kyrie's been out, we've gotten back to a lot of Luka ball. And that's not a criticism. Sure. That's a survival instinct. When Kyrie's out for 12 games, you have to do something different. Dante Exum certainly gives them something. But again, Dante didn't play tonight. So it's like when I'm looking at this team, and earlier someone in the chat asked a good question when it's like, why does it matter if they're off 3 starters? And what does that have to do with Kidd calling a timeout? I should have explained myself further because it's a good question. When 3 of your starters are out plus other guys are injured, there's an element of like, if you want Kidd to call a timeout, yes, I get it. But then he has to be able to do something within that timeout with the players that he has at hand. And I don't know what he would do with some of these guys because it's like there's an element of this which is just play better basketball, guys. Running on, get a better shot off. And we live by the Hardaway 3 and die by the Hardaway 3. The Mavericks win something like, I want to say they have a really astounding record that they've only – when Tim Hardaway hits 3 or more threes, the Mavericks win like 70% of their games. That's this season. So it's just, there's certain indicators that are really basic with these team, and we want to blame it or get mad at it and toss it in other directions about what they could have done differently. But it's the Mavericks were hitting their threes early tonight, and that ended up being the difference in this game. They hit 8 threes in the first quarter, and some of that's pace, some of that's quality of shot, some of it's just a little bit of luck. And I would that last awful 3 that Tim Hardaway took, I went back and looked at before the show started. If that's a normal miss, you said it in the chat. If that's a normal miss, the Knicks get the rebound and probably go win the game.
Yeah, he missed it so bad that the Mavericks won. It was really funny.
This is a good point. T-Bone says a timeout would give Kyrie rest and to stop the bleeding. The Kyrie tiredness element did come into play in the fourth quarter, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, I'm not disagreeing that like when I say I don't want to talk about like firing Kid or what a bad job Kid did, I'm not trying to say he did a good job in the fourth quarter managing the run and trying to get the team in the right spot. I'm just saying no one thought that they would be in that position at all to even blow a game, considering the personnel they had on the floor without Luka. I mean, I just didn't think they'd have a 20-point lead to blow in the first place. So I want to just say that first off. Like, it's not that it was good. It's just, I mean, they shouldn't have, they played so well over expectation. It's just not something I'm thinking about first thing after a game ends. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, Kyrie was a little tired, I think, toward the end. They definitely could have managed that a little bit better. It's funny because Kid does like to make sure he doesn't lose any of his timeouts. Like he does the use it or lose it timeout like all the time. So to not call timeouts in the fourth when he's going to lose timeouts anyway, and your team is in a funk, like, yeah, I can see that's definitely frustrating to watch for sure. And they could have done a better job with it.
Yeah.
Also, I think some Matt in our Slack, one of the 8 Matts we have on staff was like, is Kyrie being too differential down the stretch? And, part of it was him being tired, which is what Matt was wondering. And then I think, the other part of it was just the Knicks finally ran the Luka defense where they're like, okay, we're done with this. We're not letting Kyrie make any more shots. And
we don't see it too often, but particularly with these Mavericks, we don't see it too often, but there's occasions where you are reminded that Kyrie's like 6'1" to 6'2". There was like an early turnover because Kyrie was playing a little bit with his back to the basket. There was like an early turnover in the second half where Julius big ass Randle came in from behind and took the ball from Kyrie. That just, he can obviously handle the double team, but if you don't see it all the time, it's probably a little bit like confusing every now and again. And that's the point. That's what it's supposed to do, is mix it up. And the other Mavericks need to do a better job of executing. I mean, that's really kind of what it comes down to.
There's a big difference in your 6'7", 6'8" point guard getting doubled and your 6'1", 6'2" point guard getting doubled. You could tell down the stretch that Kyrie could see. It wasn't that he didn't see the play or where the ball needed to go. And credit to the Knicks. I think they did a really good job with their doubles and their rotations on the back line, where they were kind of, dipping in and out between who they were letting be the release valve. So like they would double Kyrie and, someone would be open in the middle of the floor and you could see Kyrie with the ball, like start to go that direction. And then the Knicks would rotate over. And then he's like, okay, I got to go to the corner because that's where the Knicks are helping off of. And then the Knicks covered that too. Like they did a really good job. 4 guys, basically 3 guys covering 4 guys. They did a good job rotating through, so it wasn't always an easy pass for Kyrie to make. And so, I don't, maybe the counter to that is let someone else bring the ball up, maybe run him off some screens. But again, he's probably pretty tired at that point, so we'll see.
They don't have many ball handlers left.
Yeah,
I mean, Tim Hardaway had some Stanley from The Office dribbling moments where I was just like, what is going on here, Timmy? Like, you're losing the ball with your right hand. You are right-handed. How is that a thing? And it's just, we've been a little spoiled when you have Luka, who's so good at ball control. Same with Kyrie and same with Dante Exum, to where it hasn't been a concern. And the Knicks just made you feel a little bit uncomfortable. So
yeah, for sure. And it's like, the Knicks, since they traded for OG Anunoby, like they're really good. Like they're really good.
This is a big fucking win.
Yeah,
it is a big win.
This might be their most impressive. I mean, I know Minnesota is the best team in the West right now, record wise, but like I don't know. This Knicks team has been really freaking good since that trade.
And fun fact,
impressive.
somebody pointed this out in a chat that I'm in. Kyrie Irving has not lost to the Knicks since 2018. So
that's pretty good.
He plays them really well. Is where we're at. All right, I need to chill for a second. If you could do me a favor, guys, if you could like the stream, I'd really appreciate that. While you're hanging out down there, go ahead and subscribe to the show. There's a way to get notified whenever we go live. I think it has to do with how you click the bell. I don't really understand YouTube. I'm too old. But it's definitely something I would appreciate. When this video is over, if you could leave a comment, I would like that as well. If you're listening on an audio stream, please leave me a review. Shoot me an email with any questions, that sort of thing. We're making slow and steady progress. Nobody who's listening to this is going to hear this because it's an Apple feed problem. But if there's anybody out there that listens to this show that is in like audio or does podcasting themselves, I could really use some help. We have made like a step forward where we know what's going on. But the quick story is that because we transferred from one hosting platform to another, something got messed up and then switched over 5 or 6 months after we started with Blue Wire. It doesn't make any sense. All right, thanks for letting me talk about that. What else should we talk about in this game? Because it's, again, like I think it's sort of like the way the game ended leaves you the immediate reaction has to be, oh shit, but realistically, you're surviving Dante DiVincenzo, Bomani Jones refers to him as White Dante, was 5 of 10 from 3, just killing the Mavericks from those corners. But Isaiah Hartenstein was grabbing all the rebounds. I mean, the Knicks didn't out-rebound the Mavericks too badly. I mean, this really feels like a game that the Mavericks, I don't want to say stole, but it was tough.
Yeah, and offensive rebounds, New York had 13, which is not great, but the Mavs had 11. Like they had just as many, their share of back-breaking offensive rebounds. I mean, they won the game with 2 offensive rebounds at the end of the game. And it's just kind of funny considering the paint and rebounding advantage that the Knicks have. Obviously, the Knicks did score pretty much at will in the paint when they decided to get there, when they kind of woke up in the second half. New York shot 19 of 21 at the rim. That is 90.5%. They scored 56 points in the paint. So again, if the Mavericks didn't start the game as aggressively as they did with Kyrie, I mean, we're probably talking about the Knicks winning this game by double digits, considering how they played in the second half and for parts of the second quarter. But really, like, the Mavericks scored 44. I mean, the Mavericks scored 44 points in that first quarter, and they kind of just rode that out in a way with their 3-point shot making advantage. Yeah. I mean, they win a game by 4 and they made 3 more threes than the Knicks. 3-point shot making is huge, and the turnovers were huge. So yeah, there were parts of the game that didn't look great. Julius Randle did his thing where he's in Dallas and he plays like a freaking MVP, even though he looked like crap in the first 24 minutes or so of the game, and he just looked amazing in the second half. Nothing really, who on the Mavericks is, Jones is too skinny, Powell is Dwight Powell. It was just a tough matchup, especially. He always matches up pretty poorly with the Mavericks because they haven't been a big team for a while, and this one hurt. But yeah, go ahead.
We got to give some love to a guy that we've been kicking the shit out of in Grant Williams.
Welcome back, Grant Williams.
He 27 minutes, 11 points, 6 boards, 3 assists, 1 block, 1 turnover. 3 of his rebounds were of the offensive variety.
Yep. Still a -4. Still missed 4 3-pointers.
I want to know your opinion on this because I don't like doing the Bill Simmons body doctor thing.
Uh-oh.
But I feel like he played. I feel like he played with an apology on his face. He had a look on his face fuck, I need to do better. The whole game. And he did do better.
He's not a dummy. He's online. He's very online. He's doing pod. I think he's very much in tune with what the discourse is around him. And he definitely had an effort level of a guy that has been reading a lot of mean tweets and articles and bad stats and stuff like that. I believe that for sure.
Mm-hmm. And then I think the other guy, his box score doesn't really reflect how well I felt he played, but I really liked Jaden Hardy's game tonight. I did.
Yeah, he was part of the first half kind of barrage. He kind of cooled off. I don't even know if he scored. He finished with 8.6 rebounds, 4 assists. I feel like that's what he had in the first half.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I think that's right because the lanes were kind of closing down. Like the Mavericks weren't
yeah,
running as much in the second.
yeah, because the Knicks finally decided to like play basketball in the second half. And Hardy, this is actually a pretty Hardy had no points, no assists. He had 1 rebound in the second half. But yeah, the Knicks are a tough matchup because of their size and like even Brunson, who's not like an amazing defender, like he's still chunky, and
Yep.
it just makes it harder for a guy like Hardy. But I thought Hardy was part of that like really aggressive, fast tempo pace, getting out on the break. He made some good passes in transition. Had a really nice kind of mid like secondary break, drive into the paint, drop off for Powell for a layup in the first half. That was really pretty. So yeah, he made the plays they needed to get the lead up big in the first half. And yeah, he didn't finish the game strong, but he gave him a good half at least, which was nice.
No, and that's really what you need because you go through this box score tonight, and the Mavericks played a 7-man rotation with a bite of Morris and Seth Curry, who just turned in a nothing burger in 10 minutes. So you're running essentially. Let's just go through it. They have Powell at center, and you got Hardaway, Jones, Kyrie Irving, Josh Green, Grant Williams, Jaden Hardy, and this is an element of where I have a hard time from the big picture. Like I get you want to criticize the runs. They're ready to play tonight, and that was nice because they weren't ready to play against Memphis. Luka was either hurt before that game and needed to sit and wouldn't, or some nights you just don't have it. But that was a really frustrating element of the Memphis game. And tonight, I don't really think we can look at anybody that played tonight and say they didn't play hard.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like everyone that played of the main 7 had a moment or two of just like a momentum turning play. Obviously, we've talked about the big guys that played the major minutes, and Hardaway and Green and Kyrie, and even Powell had 5 offensive rebounds, made some nice plays. Derrick Jones Jr., who is slumping in a big way from 3. He's hitting 30% of his threes in January. He hit 32% of his threes in December, which I think everyone called that. He was not going to be a 38%, 39, whatever he was at the first couple of weeks of the season. But the thing that's nice about Jones is he's been slumping, but he still feels pretty like invaluable. Feels like a guy you can't take off the floor. OG Anunoby had a pretty invisible game, and Jones was definitely on him for large stretches. Jones guarded a little bit of everybody. He guarded Randall, he guarded Anunoby, he guarded a little bit of Brunson. Like he kind of feels like he feels like their kind of defensive guy, like in the way that like the Mavericks would use Dorian Finney-Smith. Obviously, Jones is a little bit more athletic, makes a little bit more splash defensive plays, but he kind of feels like their defensive anchor in a way on the perimeter, outside of Lively at the rim. He had another block. He is blocking so many shots. This is his 3rd straight game with a block. He's played 6 games in January. 5 of them he has a block. He actually has 6. He has 8 blocks in 6 January games. Like that's pretty good from your 6'6" small forward / small ball power forward.
We thought he was going to be playing when he played for the Mavericks. We kind of figured that he would be a small ball 5. I did not see him guarding the positions he's guarded, and so pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I think he's been a great wing guard defender for the most part. He has his moments for sure. He was one. I don't know if you caught watching this game because it kind of showed up more in the 4th quarter. He is another guy that looks really tired.
Sure.
He has been he has been balls to the wall since they've played him. He is average. We talked about Grant Williams and the weird story about him being out of shape because he was never asked to play this many minutes before in his career. Well, very quietly, Derrick Jones Jr. is averaging a career high in minutes per game. He's averaging 25.7 per game. Career, he's 19.4 minutes per game. Last season, he was at 14. The season before, he was at 17. He's started 36 games, which he's going to blow past his career high of games started, which is 43. Outside of that, he started 43 games in 2021. He's never started more than 20.
Yep.
So not only is his role this is what we talked about with Grant, where his role increased, his minutes increased, maybe the production drops because he's not playing against bench players. Well, Jones is doing that, and he's averaging a career high in points by about 2. He's still blocking almost a shot per game. He's got about almost a steal per game, like playing really well. He's shooting, 48% from the floor. He's making enough threes. He's currently a career high still from 3, even at 34%. But with the defense and the athleticism, you take it. Like, he has taken that role and kind of run with it. And he's probably been, him and Exum, well, and Lively, but him and Exum have been kind of the difference maker. I don't know. Lively is also like, no one thought a 19-year-old rookie starting center would be as good as Lively. So those 3 have been, when we talk about, this team has a similar record to last year's Mavericks. Last year's Mavericks did not have 3 players like those 3, like Lively, like Jones, like Exum. So those 3 have been the difference, I think, for sure.
Yeah, it's been nice.
Yeah.
The tiredness element is interesting. There was a certain point earlier this year where Josh and I, it was like 6 games in 16 days.
Yeah.
And they had all their rest at a point where they really didn't need it. And they're not alone in this. Like, teams are looking haggard. The NBA has
a lot of blowouts lately.
The NBA has a scheduling problem, and it's blowouts. It's funny because, like, clearly the player participation policies are working. In that, like, guys are playing a lot more. Shout out to Kawhi Leonard for playing so regularly that he got a massive contract extension. Which it would just kill me if all of a sudden he decides to start sitting more often now that he's playing. But it makes me wonder where these guys are not really ready to play night in and night out like they used to be, or like because they're playing more. I have no data on that, so I probably don't know what I'm talking about. But they're just the blowouts are real, and that's where the Mavericks coming out tonight was nice. Just we don't see them involved in that many blowouts. They've had some bad losses this year. The Memphis one was a good example of that, but hopefully we'll see some in the second half of the season. We'll see a more consistent, slightly healthier Dallas Mavericks lineup. If you look at injury stuff, they're kind of in the middle of the pack, but I would argue that because they are constantly missing 2 to 3 rotation guys, we just don't know what this team can be. And there's a lot of folks out there that really want the Mavericks to go trade for people because they want more depth, which I get. I just can't help but think with what we're seeing, or really what we're not seeing on the rumor market, that the Mavericks have any interest in doing that. They probably should. I just don't think they're going to.
I think they're interested. I think they're just handicapped with their asset situation right now.
Yeah.
I don't think they anticipated Green having such a, obviously he's played well. He had a good game tonight. And then he had another good game, a couple, he's had a handful of good games since coming back, which is nice. But I feel like if you ask someone on the whole about Green and Hardy, you would say on the whole, they've not been as good as you probably thought they would be this season. And those are the 2 young blue chip players on the roster that would entice a team in a trade. Like, when you look at what Toronto got for OG Anunoby, it was Emmanuel Quigley and RJ Barrett and no first round picks. Like, if a team is looking for players that can play right away, like good young players, like Green and Hardy are theoretically those guys for the Mavericks to offer, and those guys taking a little bit of a step back makes it harder, because after that, it's basically like salary filler, which is like, all right, teams will take it or leave it, and they can only trade 1 pick, so that also limits them. Like, they only got Kyrie because he was a depreciated asset. So that's kind of where they're at. They need to find a guy that not a lot of people are bidding on, which is why, as much as I want them to throw everything in the pot and get a Pascal Siakam, like, he has a market. Like, he's a good player. He is not a depreciated asset. So
I also don't think that from a like what he wants is getting respected enough in the Mavericks discussion when fans are talking about him. The basketball fit is so obvious with what Dallas needs, but he doesn't want to stand in a corner and take threes and do dirty work. He doesn't want to do that. He's 30 years old. He wants his final contract. So, and he's probably going to get it from somebody. I just don't know if the Mavericks would be the team to do it. You are never super enthused about specific free agents. So the fact that not free agents, just like players on the market, you're never like, I really want that guy.
I love Pascal.
And so that's
just
like,
he's in my heart. I don't know what it is.
That's enough for me as a buy-in.
Yeah. I told the story. It's because I watched him at New Mexico State in an arena of like 200 people. It's just, you fall in love with guys that you watch early on. Like it's why, all the draft people we know have their favorite guys that they've been following for a while. Like he's kind of like that for me.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And so I don't know. It's just, you got to, what players want. That was one of the things Jonathan Sharks, our old friend, used to talk about, which is guys in their 20s often really want different things than by the time they're in their late 20s and early 30s. And what the Mavericks did with Dirk way back in the day, this is kind of lost, but they cycled in new guys every 3 years. Like Dirk had a new cast every 3 years, almost the entire career. They haven't done that with Luka. This started this year. So we'll see what they can do. The market's always weird. I find I tend to like, it's bad for our clicks, but I like when we don't hear anything about Dallas with trades. I'd rather that shit come out. We were at our colleague Doyle's baby shower when the Kyrie Irving news broke. At least that was like whispered about, but like, I don't know. I kind of like it. All right. We've been talking long enough and I'm tired. Do we have any other stuff we should cover?
No, I saw someone in the chat asking like what's going on with Maxey, and I know
a lot of people today.
He was doubtful, so he's trending in the right direction. I want to say, just because people keep asking about it. Like I did ask the injury expert Jeff Stotts, I guess friend of the site. He's a Dallas guy, right? Yeah. He is the injury expert. He has a database like that he can reference with injuries that he can look up and kind of compare injuries to what's happened in the past. And I asked him because we've all been wondering, like, this is weird. Why has he been out for 2 months? And he responded, he's like, this is a very unique injury. Like, I don't have historical data for a dislocated toe. So for Mavs fans that are like, why isn't Maxey back yet? It's a worse injury than it seems. You see dislocated toe and you're just like, what the hell? It's just a toe. Like, what's going on? But apparently it seems like it's a more unique and complicated injury than it seems on the surface. So I wouldn't say like he's like his toe has not been amputated. Like, I don't know what's going on, but it seems like he didn't respond to make it seem like it was out of the ordinary that he's missed this much time.
So we'll see what happens with that. I mean, the funny part is, like, I think if anything, I only pine for Maxey to get pissed about something else. Like, I think Maxey's cooked, but you never know.
We'll see.
All right, so that's about all we got. I'm going to go back to trying to deal with this podcast problem. It's going to consume me until I get an answer. It's just it's a truly ridiculous problem. Apple listeners make up like 65% of our podcast market because Apple had a monopoly on the podcast market. They basically
everyone owns a damn iPhone and everyone owns an iPhone.
They basically invented podcasts as a medium because it was just there on their app, and most people subscribe to it. And like when you use the Apple app, you go to it, and for us, if you look up Pod Maverick, 2 feeds show up. I have no idea how long 2 feeds have been there. One feed gets updated regularly but has no subscribers. The other feed stopped getting updated regularly about a month and a week ago, and we have not been able to figure out why. I pinpointed why. Now I have to figure out how to get access to this particular RSS feed. It is ridiculous.
And then what's stupid is it would almost make sense if this was happening to every app, but like some apps are
every single other one works. Like I found us the other night on Amazon Music. Or YouTube,
on Google.
We're on. We're like even though Google's sunsetting, we are on Pandora.
Spotify.
We're all across the thing. Wagner asks if I could do a fan show. Man, I woke up at 4:30 this morning with a baby. Never went back to bed, so I think I'm going to go to bed.
You got to go.
I really do want to though. Saturday night I might be on late. We'll see. Josh is maybe going to do the show either by himself or with somebody else. You're right. Wagner, I'm sorry. We do deserve a party. I'm too tired. All right. So thanks so much for hanging out. We'll talk with everybody soon. Enjoy this win. This is a nice one. We'll be back. Everybody, have a great rest of your week and go Mavs.